Turning to a wrap of your top stories of the day, we are on top of breaking news this morning as the world reacts to the death of Pope Francis. You can see this is a live look over Vatican City in Rome as crowds are beginning to gather. The Pope made his final appearance yesterday at St. Peter's to celebrate Easter services. Francis's body will be put on display in an open coffin in the Vatican for a 9-day mourning period. He was 88 years old.
And traffic is picking up out there as we take a live look outside from I-77 over towards York County, and it's especially over towards Gold Hill Road where the volume of traffic keeps picking up, and we'll continue to see that over towards South Charlotte as well. A live look outside from I-77 at Nations Ford Road. One crash I would want to avoid is going to be this one, North Tryon Street at Orr Road. That is causing delays. Chris?
And today is the warmest and potentially the driest day that we're going to have. 84 degrees, enjoy it. And then we have really mainly a mix of the 70s to close to 80 degrees with a chance for rain Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then dry again on Sunday. But we need the rain, so this is actually good for all.
By the end of the week, we'll be caught up?
Yeah.
We'll be a little closer.
A little closer.
A little closer.
Great.
So it'll be worth it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Your plants will like it as well.
Good.
Good.
A reminder, the news does not end here. We've got more breaking news, weather, traffic, and also the latest on the passing of the Pope. That news coming in this morning. That's going to happen over on WCNC Plus.
Yeah, that starts in just a few minutes at 7 a.m. We'll see you there.
Following breaking news this morning right now at 7 a.m. live on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Megan Bragan for Lisa. We return now to that breaking news this morning just before coming on air at 4:30 this morning. The Vatican announced the death of Pope Francis. We are taking a live look right now at the Vatican.
This news coming as a surprise for a lot of people after actually seeing the Pope yesterday there give parishioners there sort of a homily there at Easter Sunday. Now the crowd looking very different. Crowds gathering to honor the head of the Catholic Church now that news is spreading of his passing overnight. Let's go out to WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane. He's live outside the Charlotte Diocese. That's there in South End. Richard, this appeared, even though we knew the Pope had been really sick, this appeared to be quite sudden.
Yeah, that's correct, Ben. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning, all. We saw those images on Easter Sunday, and folks were buoyed by seeing the pontiff there giving the Easter address, meeting with the vice president. But of course, today they're shocked, and even here at the Charlotte Catholic Diocese, we can tell you that now there is sadness as folks are entering into that period of mourning over Pope Francis. All of this because of his death. This morning, the world mourning, a gentle voice that called for compassion in the world, peace, and also unity. Pope Francis, the spiritual leader to over 1 billion Catholics and a global symbol of humanity and hope, is passed at the age of 88. The Vatican confirmed his passing earlier this morning after a long period of failing health. He was born in Argentina. Pope Francis made history in 2013, not just as the first pope from the Americas, but as a leader who brought the church closer to the people, especially the forgotten and the poor. He's touched the lives far beyond the walls of the Vatican, urging the world to care for the planet, embracing the marginalized immigrants. He led to leading one with mercy. He had a simple lifestyle, and he fearlessly called for justice. He left a mark for his believers and for non-believers alike. Today there are candles being lit. As you know, now they'll have those celebrations of his life as there is a collective period of mourning, and then that conclave that will ultimately lead to a new pontiff. Of course, there will be that conclave that leads to voting for a new pope. There is a normal procession of a way the funeral is handled. There will be changes made because of the way this pope ruled or led as a pope. He was a lot different than previous popes, choosing to be a lot less, a lot more simple in his lifestyle. And also we've learned that some of the traditions as far as his funeral proceedings will change. There'll be a lot more simple. For instance, there'll just be one casket and not the several changes to different caskets and different pontiff garments. Of course, all of that, you'll hear more about that in the coming days. But of course, we'll have more from folks in our area and around this area throughout the coming days, both here and, of course, on traditional TV. We're live right here in the South End. This is Richard Devane. We'll send it back to you.
Just about under 1 million Catholics here in North Carolina, more than 1 billion around the world, all waking up to shocking news. All right, Richard, thank you for that.
And Pope Francis was one of the most visible men in the world. His worship services and public events followed by tens of millions of people every day.
But what was it like to actually see Pope behind the scenes, working, traveling, or even sharing a joke? NBC News' Jay Gray with more on the personal side of the Pope.
He led more than 1 billion Catholics around the world, but only a select group of journalists had a 30,000-foot view of Pope Francis's journey. NBC News correspondent Claudio Lavagna is part of the Vatican Accredited Media Personnel, or VAMP. It's made up of about 70 members of the press who travel with the Pope on board Shepherd 1. Over the past 20 years, Lavagna's covered Popes John Paul II, Benedict, and Francis.
It's like following a rock star around the world.
His papal name, Francis, was chosen to honor the saint of the poor, the people Lavagna says the late Pope seemed happiest to be around.
He wanted the poor church. He wanted to reach out to the last of the last. Not politicians, not leaders, just the people, especially the people who had nothing, and perhaps the most important that they had was faith.
Lavagna says the spiritual leader had quite the sense of humor, and he recalls pulling a prank on the Pope during a flight to Morocco.
When he extended his hand, I just pulled it away, and he was shocked.
The joke, a play on this viral video showing the Pope refusing to let well-wishers kiss his ring.
You know, a lot of people are asking themselves, why didn't you allow this faithful to shake your hand or kiss your hand? And he laughed and he took my hand and he slowly explained that he did it for hygienic reasons.
As loved as Francis was, he did have his critics.
There were a lot of unfulfilled promise to this pontificate.
One of his most iconic and historic moments came when the world shut down due to COVID. Pope Francis standing in an empty St. Peter's Square, praying for the pandemic to end.
The Pope is the shepherd of the world, and I think that image will last a very long time.
Weigel contends the next pope will have a different vision for the church.
I think we are going to see a conclave focused on a return to a more orderly process of decision-making in Rome.
While in many ways Pope Francis changed the papacy, some say it never changed him.
He really always was Jorge Bergoglio, which was his real name, and he never lost that for one day.
Jay Gray, NBC News.
And taking another live look at the Vatican this morning, Vatican City in Rome, where the Pope was seen riding in the Pope-mobile just yesterday for Easter services. Francis was known as a reformer who rattled the Catholic Church's traditionalists and inspired progressives by reaching out to gay people and championing the rights of immigrants and the poor. Here's what some of those mourners had to say just after the news broke.
I don't live in Rome. I live in Milan, and I'm here for Easter. And I find it very significant that the Pope has died during Easter or the Easter weekend. I'm from Argentina. The Pope is Argentinian, so it has quite a bit of significance for us.
How you feel?
It's a moment of a bit of sadness and at the same time thankfulness and celebration of life.
This is a new morning of Vatican officials announcing the death of Pope Francis. The whole announcement is in Italian. In 2 weeks, his successor will be chosen during a secret meeting called Conclave, which can take days to complete. We'll have more on his passing and the legacy he leaves behind throughout the day, right here on WCNC Plus and during our live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
You know, even though the Pope had been sick in recent months and had been in the hospital, it appeared, at least publicly, he had turned a corner and appeared at Easter services yesterday and met with Vice President Vance and his family as well yesterday. So I think some people waking up to this news a little surprised because they thought he had turned a corner. But abrupt news coming out of the Vatican this morning. The Pope has died at the age of 88. Much more throughout the day right here on WCNC Plus. In the meantime, let's take a pause from that and get a check of your Monday forecast with Chris Mulcahy.
Good morning to you, Ben and Megan. It is a delightful start to the day. Some areas see more clouds than others, but still a decent amount of sunshine reaching the surface. It is April 21st. Our sunrise time officially was at 6:44. It was a good one, not one of the best we've ever seen. And that moisture level comes down a little bit, still below that 60. That 60 is where it really starts to feel a little bit more humid, or I like to use the word sticky is I think a little bit more appropriate. So we do have a little stickiness to the air this morning, better so tomorrow morning. And tomorrow morning is also going to be a little bit more unstable, better chance for a thunderstorm. Today, 0 chances for storms. Today is one of the last dry days that we have until this coming Sunday. 84 degrees, that was yesterday's high. So that's pretty much what we're looking at for today. Lower to the mid 80s across the board. Winds out of the southwest could be breezy at times, gusting up to about 25 miles per hour. So here's all the clouds that are moving through. You can see that general oscillation that we're seeing here, and it eventually is going to be pushing its way further off towards the east. But check out our day and nighttime rainfall chances. Each day, each night, we'll have some sort of chance except for Sunday and then again Monday and Monday night. So it's all in all going to be a wet period, especially Tuesday through Thursday. And I think you can even narrow that down to about Wednesday and Thursday that rain is most likely. And here, I'll show you. Tomorrow, 79, 78. Also, the lack of sunshine will kick temperatures down, but another mild start tomorrow, starting off in the mid 60s. So tomorrow morning is going to be dry. This storm system takes its time getting here. Since it's to the north of us, I think this is really a better chance for stronger storms the further north that you go. Now, Charlotte could be included in that. This is very isolated nature, and we do have a low risk for damaging winds. We also have a low risk for hail that's associated with this. However, it really looks like there's actually a better instability for this coming Wednesday. Now, the Storm Prediction Center hasn't come out with it. We roll tape to about noon tomorrow, seeing better chances for storms right around the I-40 corridor. This can still change. Still, all of us are going to be involved with this. You're either going to have a cluster of storms or any individual storms will have a better chance for some hail. So hail and damaging winds, and of course the typical downpours and lightning is going to be a possibility. Some areas could pick up a quick inch of rain. All in all, 1 to 2 inches on average across the area, but some areas can see much higher totals depending where everything sets up. So our storm fuel, you can see that it's okay. There's a lot of holes here, a little bit more unstable further off towards the north, but we start to see those yellows appear. So a little bit more moderate instability for your Wednesday. So even though the Storm Prediction Center hasn't given us a weather alert day or a low chance for storms that day, I think Wednesday has the slightly better chance. So today is the day to go golfing. Temperatures ranging into the lower to the mid 80s. After that, much cooler with on and off rain chances throughout the entire time. So get out and enjoy it while you can. So that extended forecast definitely showing a downturn in temperatures, but still slightly above normal. Also, our lows are above normal as well, starting most mornings in the lower to the mid 60s, just like overnight tonight, heading into tomorrow morning. Now let's hit the roads with Becca Birdsall and see what's going on so far on one of the busiest parts of the day.
Yeah, that's right. As we take a live look outside, just south of Uptown, this is a busy spot. I-77 at Clinton Road, especially packed on those northbound lanes as drivers make their way inbound into Uptown Charlotte. Right now, that's one of the slow spots in South Charlotte, as well as 85 northbound over towards Gastonia. But I do want to go ahead and get to the newest crashes that we're looking at. This is in East Charlotte, impacting Eastway Drive at Shamrock Drive, causing a few minor delays there, and still have that serious incident being reported at North Tryon Street at Orr Road, and then over towards East Charlotte, inbound Independence. This is close to that northbound Eastway ramp, seeing those slowdowns extend over a mile now. Best alternate route would be to take Central Avenue or Monroe Road to get around this.
7:12 right now on WCNC Plus. And this morning we're learning all the students injured in last week's Chester County bus crash are now back home. The crash happened Thursday when a tire blew out on a school bus carrying 35 middle school students, making it overturned there in the middle of I-77. You can see the aerial pictures here. They were returning home from a field trip here in Charlotte. Tragically, one 8th grader was killed. School leaders say their focus now is helping students, families, and staff heal after that tragedy.
Classes at Florida State University were set to return today, just days after a deadly shooting on campus. But now the school says all absences will be excused this week. No reasons needed. The change comes after strong pushback from students. Some remote learning options will be also available, but in-person requirements like lab exams may still require attendance.
Now to Washington, where the Trump administration's showdown continues against the courts over deportations. It all comes amid new controversy this morning involving Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and a second different Signal group chat. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest now from Washington.
Things, and we're getting them out.
President Trump's immigration policy again colliding with the courts after the Supreme Court paused the deportations of another group of Venezuelan migrants and alleged gang members. Lawyers representing the men say they're being denied hearings to argue their case, something the High Court previously ruled was required to deport under the Wartime Alien Enemies Act, which the administration wants to resume using, asking the justices to lift their hold.
I'm not arguing right here that nobody should get due process. I'm just saying there's a different process under Alien Enemies Act.
Two conservative justices dissented with the court's pause, calling it unprecedented and legally questionable. President Trump again slamming the federal courts for derailing his immigration actions to stop what he called a sinister attack on our nation. Critics like Senator Chris Van Hollen, who visited, mistakenly deported Kilmar Abrego Garcia in El Salvador, whose release the Supreme Court ordered the Trump administration to facilitate, accusing the president of focusing on gang allegations over due process.
If you deny the constitutional rights of one man, you threaten the constitutional rights for everybody.
Meanwhile, the administration facing new controversy over Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth sharing sensitive information ahead of U.S. military operations in Yemen last month in another Signal group chat, including his wife, his brother, and personal lawyer. They both hold Pentagon jobs. That's all according to two sources with knowledge of the matter. It was first reported by the New York Times. The White House saying there was no wrongdoing and no classified information shared. The Defense Department's acting inspector general is looking into the first Signal chat when a journalist was accidentally added to high-ranking Trump officials' sensitive military discussions on Yemen. The ranking Democrat on the Armed Services Committee is asking that this new reporting be added to the investigation. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
7:15 right now on WCNC Plus, and millions across the Midwest and South are recovering from another weekend of deadly storms. 9 tornadoes tore through North Texas on Saturday. This is video of just one of the many damaged homes, downed trees as well. Thankfully, no reports of any injuries, but take a listen to what people caught in the middle of all of it had to say.
We just heard this horrific, I don't even know how to explain it, just a horrific wind blowing nasty sound, and I looked out and the RV port was gone and this was laying on its side, and I screamed because I knew my son was in there and I was really afraid that he might be seriously injured. He crawled out with a flashlight and stood on top, said, "Mom, I'm okay, I'm okay." That was really a God thing. Anyway, we're just very thankful that none of the neighbors seem to have been hurt, and we're okay too.
The same storm system is believed to have produced a total of 16 tornadoes in Texas and Oklahoma combined. Chris and Becca join us right now in the Weather Center with more on these storms.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ben. And Becca, we've been seeing a lot of this, that it's a blast of severe weather followed by just numerous rain showers one after another.
And this is a prolonged severe weather threat both Saturday and Sunday due to that stalled front, damaging winds, tornadoes, of course, flash flooding, large hail, all impacting a very busy Easter weekend where families are getting ready for all those Easter activities. So, of course, very unfortunate. But looking at the estimated rainfall
check this out. Oof. Up to about 10 inches of rain across a 2-day period. And as Becca said, it's just one front that was after another. So oftentimes, whenever you have a front like this, it's almost atmospheric train tracks. So just one storm after another. And here I'm actually going to show you what it looks like. Check it out. You have one batch of heavy rain. There were some embedded storms within that. And then even our radar is having a tough time trying to keep up with all the rain that was moving through one area. But you see that one shower after another. There's at least light to moderate rain pretty much pushing through those areas that saw the flood concerns as well. And the National Weather Service actually said it's going to send out crews to survey some of the damage. Here's what we have from the tornadoes along with this. And Becca, I think oftentimes this line could have been a QLCS, so you have spin-up tornadoes within the line as well.
For sure. And one local DFW station was actually on air for 6 hours straight. Gives you an idea of how active this Easter weekend was. And unfortunately, we have learned that 3 people have died in Oklahoma. And Tuesday also brings another round of severe weather towards North Texas and Oklahoma as well. So fortunately, not done yet.
Yeah, and where you're looking right now is a video from Oklahoma. Now we're over to Missouri, and just trees down all over the place just from the stronger winds that happen along with this. Yeah, because, Becca, I think we've seen this more years than previous, that we've had this much blocking, that you have the storm system. This is now like the 3rd time that we've had it. Now, the most memorable one is, of course, what happened around Kentucky, but it's the storms that are also embedded in this, so it's kind of that 1-2 punch that areas keep on getting.
Yep, and it's unfortunate to see, of course, the property losses as well as the life losses as well. The system is finally going to eventually make it into the Carolinas as well.
And what's it going to do? It's going to stall. So yeah, look at the surface map that I've been building. So this is exactly what it's going to do. It's essentially going to try to push its way in, and then it just drapes its way across the area. And as soon as it does that, it's not really going to go anywhere for the foreseeable future. So that's why we're just going to be keeping an eye on some of the flood threats. I don't think this is going to be one of the most major that we we have, but I still think a 1 to 2 inch range is certainly going to be a possibility. Wednesday's a day that we're kind of looking a little bit closer at just because of the severe potential there, even though it hasn't been flagged and tagged by the Storm Prediction Center. But 1 to 2 inches of rain possible, but I think some of these are going to be much higher, just depending. Now, further off towards the west, they're still anticipating more rain that can come with this. This time, the storm system a little bit further off towards the west. So it's just one area that just keeps on getting slammed over and over again. So here's what our setup is. A little bit closer look at that front. It's going to drape itself across the northern part of our viewing area a little bit later tomorrow. So I think it's around the I-40 corridor that has the highest chance for thunderstorms. Charlotte, you could still have them on and off throughout the 3 to 8 hour period. So I think it's about 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. that's going to be our best chance pushing through that area. And then it'll be one front after another. So as I mentioned, the atmospheric train tracks, they'll continue to drape across the area. Those are especially set up for Wednesday heading into Thursday. That's our highest chance. Then I think we have another system arrive on Friday heading into Saturday. Most of these during the afternoon, but there are some overnights as well. High temperatures today, 84. This is the warmest temperature I have until next week. And then also this is one of the sunnier and drier days that you're going to have until about Sunday, but Sunday will be a little bit cooler. So over the next 12 hours, here's what it looks like. Lower to the mid 80s, winds out of the southwest, gusting up to about 20 to 25. So we yet again have that warmer breeze. I'll roll what our futurecast does for today. A whole lot of nothing, a little bit more sunshine and blue sky working its way through today. Today is a partly cloudy to a mostly cloudy one. So at times you'll see more sun and at times you'll see more clouds. Now let's get to the rain. Here's what it looks like. First starts in the mountains actually tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's forecast, I think we're dry here in the Charlotte area, maybe even a peak of sunshine. By the afternoon, that's where we have a better storm potential, and that's why I think you're going to see more clouds, but still some sun as well. Right now, Storm Protection Center has a low chance for larger hail. I think that's going to be in an individual storm, and then we have a low chance for some gusty winds. So here's what that looks like. Seeing any of these individual guys during the middle of the afternoon could grow, like this one you see around Salisbury at 5 o'clock, same one moving from Spartanburg into Shelby. Those are the ones that could have a quick little hail core. We saw it on April 11th. A lot of people at least saw some of that pea-sized hail. I think that happens, but this has an even better chance for some larger ones with some gusty winds as well. As long as this atmospheric moisture continues to train across the area, yeah, we're going to have rain, whereas the showers and storms are actually looking a little bit more numerous for Wednesday themselves. So we might go weather alert on Wednesday, just depending. That's also a better chance for some heavier rain because we're also looking at the next day on Thursday. This is one of those developing situations. We're really going to see how things work out. Earlier models were really showing, oh, there's going to be a lot more breaks than not. But if you have some areas that continue to see one shower after another, that could lead us into flood potential threats. This is a forecast that you really have to be up to date on as it works its way through this week. So as I mentioned, really starting tomorrow, our first round of on and off showers and thunderstorms. We'll continue to see that through your Wednesday, Thursday, heading into Friday. Saturday looks to be the final round as yet again another cold front pushes through, and the last of that should be out here on your Saturday night into Sunday. Sunday right now trending to be the better day of the weekend because it's certainly looking drier. So enjoy today with no rain and enjoy your morning commute. Hopefully it's not a bad one, but Becca has that update.
And the CMS students certainly will enjoy this day off with the weather, and you will enjoy less traffic for your Monday morning commute. This is some of the best traffic maps I've seen it look for a Monday morning commute. Lots of green all across the area, including I-485. One of the slow spots is going to be 85 northbound over towards Gastonia. Also a bit slow on 77 northbound over towards South Charlotte. But North Charlotte looking good. I-77 at Sunset Road. No impacts to both those north and southbound lanes, and drive time still remaining steady. Matthews to Charlotte, 30 minutes. Salisbury, 46. Waxhaw, 39. And Belmont, about 24 minutes. Active crashes across the area, including this one. Eastway Drive at the intersection of Shamrock. North Tryon Street at Orr Road still causing some delays, including this one. East Charlotte, this is inbound Independence, right close to that northbound Eastway ramp, is still causing significant delays in and around the area.
All right, thank you, Becca. It's Easter Monday, and folks celebrated the Easter holiday across the Carolinas yesterday, including Governor Josh Stein and his family. They hosted an Easter egg hunt at the governor's mansion in Raleigh, welcoming kids from across the state. CMPD also held its own Easter egg hunt for adults living with intellectual and developmental disabilities. In addition to finding eggs, they gave out meals, candy, and prizes. I know you were definitely doing your Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, we did a Easter egg hunt.
Yeah.
I did the one hiding them. I was not hunting for them, of course.
Okay.
Niece and nephew went and got them.
Cute.
You had parents in town.
Parents were in town, went to church, had brunch, you know. It was actually so nice, too, because everybody was just in their Sunday best yesterday. We were in Uptown, and everybody just looked so nice.
So spiffy. And
So spiffy,
and
yes.
we don't do that enough anymore, probably.
I know.
Very nice,
It was
very
really
nice.
cute, yeah.
All right, let's go live pictures right now over Uptown right now on your Monday morning. We're going to take a quick break. Coming up in just about a minute, Chris is going to have another update on your forecast for what is appearing to be a rainy week. Becca also is going to have more on your morning traffic. And then we're back at 7:30 with the latest headlines, including the breaking news we're following, the death of Pope Francis at the age of 88. That news shaking the world this morning as they wake up. All that and more coming your way right here on WCNC Plus.
Well, good morning, everybody. Yesterday's high of 84 looks like it's come back again, so we'll hover above that 84, 85 range across the Charlotte area and reach in the lower 80s by about 2 o'clock. Nice mix of cloud and sunshine. Get outside and enjoy it overnight tonight. It's going to be another mild start to tomorrow, dropping down to the lower to the mid 60s. And then your Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday all want to do the same thing, starting off around 60, and all those days have another thing in common, the chances for rain, where we have a chance for storms on Tuesday, especially high on Wednesday and Thursday. On and off pulses of rain will be possible all week long. Could lead to some flooding issues. Guy Roofing 7-day forecast, that's going to kick temperatures back down to the 70s. Thursday is the only day that's really below normal before we're drying out by Sunday. Sunday looks to be the driest day this weekend. Now, Becca, how's your morning commute behaving so far?
Morning commute is looking excellent out there as we take a live look outside. This is I-77 across York County. Normally, those northbound lanes, especially over towards Gold Hill Road, are absolutely packed with traffic, but actually a lot less traffic on the roadways as we take a look over towards the greater Charlotte area. You can see a little bit slow 77 northbound towards South Charlotte, as well as 85 northbound over in Gastonia. That will slow you down, including this slowdown. This is going to be probably the biggest problem spot this morning. Inbound Independence to northbound Eastway ramp, seeing a stretch of delays extending about 1 mile.
live now at 7:30 right here on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Megan Bragg in for Lisa. This morning, millions around the world are mourning and in shock over the death of Pope Francis. The news of his death was announced just a few hours after 4 o'clock this morning. I should say at 4 o'clock this morning. NBC's Mark Barger has a look at the Pope's history tenure.
Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio was elected Pope when Pope Benedict abruptly resigned in 2013. Bergoglio chose the name Francis after St. Francis of Assisi, known for his poverty and humility. Francis was the first pope to come from Latin America and the first to take the name Francis. In his opening appearance as pope, he asked that people pray for him. Francis became the leader of an estimated 1.2 billion Roman Catholics at a time of a number of conflicts for the church: a sex abuse scandal, a financial scandal in the Vatican Bank, and conflicts over the issues of abortion, homosexuality, and the role of women in the church. Within days of beginning his papacy, Francis made choices that revealed he would be a different kind of pope. He shunned the regal garments and trappings of previous popes, he paid his own hotel bill in person, and he chose to live in a modest apartment instead of the lavish papal residence. It was clear from the start that Francis loved interacting. He kissed children, wore hats from the crowd, and posed for pictures.
Don't get tired of bringing the mercy of the Father to the poor, the sick, the abandoned.
Within the first year of his papacy, he apologized to victims of sexual abuse by priests and set up a committee that included lay people to investigate sex crimes by priests. The wave of sexual abuse scandals within the church proved to be the greatest crisis of Francis' tenure. In 2015, he was criticized for supporting a Chilean bishop who was accused of covering up sex crimes against minors. Francis later admitted mishandling the situation and asked for forgiveness. Another abuse bombshell rocked the Catholic Church in 2018. A scathing grand jury report detailed decades of sexual abuses by priests in Pennsylvania.
Holy Father knows this is very serious. Holy Father knows this can shake the faith of the people in the pews.
The Vatican condemned the abuse as criminally and morally reprehensible and said Pope Francis was on the side of the victims. Through it all, Francis maintained his reputation as a reformer. He set up a hand-picked committee of 8 cardinals to discuss reforming the Vatican bureaucracy. He made headlines for his apparent acceptance of homosexuality and for warning about the dangers of climate change. Pope Francis also played a key role in the talks to restore full diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Cuba in 2014. He also spoke frequently about the importance of women in the Catholic Church and changed the Church's stance on the death penalty, declaring it unacceptable in all cases. Having had part of one lung removed as a young man, Francis had long battled health problems, especially bouts of acute bronchitis in winter. In recent years, he had been using a wheelchair, walker, or cane when moving around his apartment. Mark Barker, NBC News.
Now let's go back to live pictures right now at the Vatican, where it's 1:30 in the afternoon. And crowds are gathering there outside St. Peter's Basilica, which is right there. And in this shot right here, you can see the stage is still set from yesterday's Easter services. Now that space being used for a very different way as people come out and publicly mourn the death of the Pope. He's going to be honored with a 9-day mourning period, during which his body will be displayed there at the Vatican. Millions of Catholics will likely make the pilgrimage there to the Vatican to pay their respects during that time. St. Peter's Square, though, will be just packed with people. And in 2 weeks, a new pope will be chosen during a highly secretive election called a conclave, where church elders, cardinals, all come together from around the world and meet in the famed Sistine Chapel and vote. Sometimes it takes several rounds, but we'll vote on that new pope. We're also getting reaction from around the world as this news breaks. This post from King Charles saying in part, quote, "Our heavy hearts have been somewhat eased to know that His Holiness was able to share an Easter greeting with the church and the world he served with such devotion." The White House posting earlier today, "Rest in peace, Pope Francis." And Vice President J.D. Vance posted that he was happy to see him yesterday. We saw the pictures come out yesterday of the Vice President actually meeting with the Pope. little did you know, just hours later, he would pass away.
Yeah, very shocking. Like you were saying, I mean, watching his message yesterday, it was incredible to see him up there, you know, and
people know he's 88 and people know
Yeah.
he had a lot of health troubles, but it seemed like he had rounded a corner
Exactly.
in the last week or two. All right, more on the passing of the Pope throughout the day right here on WCNC Plus. But first, we know you need to get your day started, and that includes a check of your forecast with Chris Mulcahy.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ben. Here's what's going to happen over the coming days. A front arrives, gives us storm chances tomorrow, but then it stalls out completely. It goes nowhere. So that's just going to position itself across the area. And what happens with these, it often leads to a cloudier morning. And then once the day starts to warm up, it destabilizes, and then showers and storms start to form above it. So we're going to go through all of our rainfall chances. And the best thing about today, we don't have to worry about anything because there's a whole lot of nothing that's going on. So, all right, so let's get right to it. Let's stop it right here. About 4 p.m., you're looking at a relatively clear sky. I think you have a nice mix of cloud and sunshine. It's really a delightful beginning to the day. And then once you get to tomorrow morning, it's going to be another day that you'll see some blue skies, some thicker clouds in some locations. But if you live along the I-40 corridor, I think you could have rain as early as about 9 to 10 o'clock. So this is where the front is a little bit closer to, but closer to about 2. This is 2 p.m. That's where we're starting to see a few popcorn kernels pop up here on the radar. These typically will tend to exhaust themselves, some grow, but then once you get to about 3 to 4, that's where we're seeing signs of a better chance for a shower or thunderstorm. And at this point, some of these could be severe. I think some of these individual cells that we have here would have the potential of maybe having a solid hail core. So it's these ones right in here around Salisbury. You can see one around Shelby and Spartanburg. These individual ones with a relatively cooler day are prime hail makers. One that gloms together right here, that would be a multi-cluster storm that usually leads to a little bit more gusty winds. Then this gets out of here, and then we take a break with spotty on and off showers. And then again, as I mentioned, as long as that front's there, you're going to have something that's going to lift up that heat and moisture for the day. So you have scattered showers, chance for some thunderstorms. These ones kind of linger. So this is a concern for some flash flooding because notice how one forms, then another one. This is the classic outflow boundary that one forms, then a bigger one can join just near it. And then that could bring a lot of rain to certain areas more at once. So that's why we're really watching this pretty thoroughly. Right now, the models aren't really keeping up on about how much rain we're going to see by the end of this. I have a general range of about 1 to 2 inches. I think that some areas could see this range in a day, depending on what that storm system is going to do, because our rainfall chances aren't just 1, not 2. I'm talking about Tuesday through Saturday, you have at least a isolated to scattered chance, but Wednesday through Saturday, I have a 60, 70 to 80% chance. That's likely that you're going to have a rain shower. Certainly going to be feeling like it's going to rain during this time frame. Now, once you get to about Sunday, I think we dry things out a little bit. A 20%, I would only take those with a grain of salt. It usually means an isolated shower or thunderstorm. So that's all the rainfall chances. I want to get that out of the way. We'll talk a little bit more about temperatures, and I'll show you your Guy Roofing 7-day forecast next time I'm up here talking about weather. But first, we have to see if anything's changed since the last time Becca spoke about traffic.
Still a little bit slow out there in the normal spots for this time of day, and that includes just south of Uptown. This is I-77 at West Boulevard. You can see those northbound lanes as they make their way closer to Uptown are running a little bit slowly. However, there are no crashes to report on the major interstates or highways, so that's what we've got going for us right now on this early Monday morning. Still lots of green out there, especially on I-485 and over towards 77 in North Charlotte. But we are looking at still this active crash in East Charlotte. This is inbound Independence Boulevard, and it's very close to that Eastway ramp, and it's causing a stretch of delays right now past 1 mile. A best alternate route or workaround would be to take Monroe Road. You can also take Central Avenue over towards Briar Creek, where you then can get back on to inbound Independence. Also still have this crash northeast Charlotte, that is North Tryon Street at Orr Road. And do want to let you know of an Uptown Cycle Link project. This is going to close east to MLK Boulevard from College Street and North Davidson Street, and that closes 9 a.m. today all the way through May 16th. It will also be impacting South College Street from Good Samaritan Way all the way to East MLK Boulevard.
Well, this morning, women across Charlotte are feeling uneasy and raising some safety concerns after several disturbing incidences in South End.
WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards now live with the details on the viral TikTok and the effort now to fight back. All right, Destiny, what exactly do we know here?
Yeah, well, just on any regular day, the South End Rail Trail is usually business as usual with people walking, jogging, walking their dogs. We've seen people walking to work this morning. But one woman's regular afternoon walk on April 7th actually took a disturbing turn. It was her friend Nicole Smith who shared the story on TikTok, saying a man in a white pickup truck stopped in a crosswalk near Camden Road and East Park Avenue, exposed himself, and engaged in lewd behavior. The video, which includes a shot of the truck, quickly went viral, gaining over 55,000 likes and 15,000 shares. Since the video was posted, Smith says other women have come forward with similar stories, including reports of being followed or feeling unsafe while walking in South End. One woman who asked to remain anonymous says the recent incident made her rethink her own habits when it comes to staying alert.
Made me realize I need to be more conscious of my surroundings. A lot of times I'm walking around with noise-canceling headphones in, which I will probably stop doing now because I think it's so important to really be aware of your surroundings.
We reached out to CMPD this morning for a comment, still waiting to hear back, but crime mapping online shows recent reports of theft and robbery along the rail trail. And Smith, who posted the original TikTok, she says she's been taking matters into her own hands with her women's group called Inner Circle Charlotte. She's been using it to spread awareness and hopes to start up a women's self-defense class soon. In the meantime, she's just urging women in the area to stay alert, stay aware, and keep speaking up if you see something. Live in South End, I'm Destiny Richards, WCNC Charlotte.
Hopefully we can hear from CMPD sometime today to get a better idea of how big of a problem this is and some clarity as far as, is this a trend, is this a one-off, that sort of thing. All right, Destiny, thank you for that. Now to the North Carolina State Capitol, where the Senate there has passed their $32 billion budget proposal. Right now, it includes $700 million more for Helene relief and $1.1 billion in savings for future natural disasters, and aggressive tax cuts on top of that. It includes also a job cut structure similar to the Department of Government Efficiency, a restructure probably. WCNC Charlotte's Julie Kay breaks down what jobs are at stake and how it differs from the federal government's DOGE.
Job cuts at the federal level being felt all the way from the top down. Protests erupted across the country, including in Charlotte, over President Donald Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, cutting jobs the administration sees as wasteful.
Staff depletions are already causing problems. We have longer wait times. Nobody can get through on the phone. We have slower claims processing.
But at the North Carolina State Capitol, Senate Republicans passing a budget with a similar model called the DAVE Act, or the Division of Accountability, Value, and Efficiency. It would cut hundreds of vacant positions.
Looks like 785.5, which leaves remaining vacant positions of 22,144.
It also fully abolishes filled positions with agencies, like the Office of Historically Underutilized Businesses, which helps women and minority-owned businesses. It also cuts the Innocence Inquiry Commission, which investigates prison inmates' claims that they were wrongly convicted.
Looking at their efficiency and what they were doing, and looking at other agencies, they could do that at no expense to the state. That's why we chose that cut within that agency.
Going forward, it would create a DOGE-style review process, but there are some key differences. State leaders have said this plan would be more limited. Any future cuts would have to be approved by the state legislature, not just one person, though the state auditor would lead it. However, this budget and its cuts still have to get through the House. Though it's also Republican-led, they've not always seen eye to eye on budgets. And with more federal cuts potentially on the way.
There are a lot of rumors out there that give me great concern with how Congress may change the funding formulas for those type of things, but there is absolutely no proposals on the table in front of Congress.
DOGE at the state level still has a long road ahead. Julie Kay, WCNC Charlotte.
Well, in 2022, South Carolina had the highest rate of DUI deaths per capita in the country. 474 people died that year, but a new bill aimed at preventing more drunk driving deaths isn't expected to pass this year. The bill would add about a dozen changes to the state's DUI laws, including tighter rules on when dash cam video can be used in court, as well as felony charges for causing moderate bodily injury while driving under the influence.
It's not just bad luck that we are the nation's worst for drunk driving. It is because we have an incredibly flawed DUI law.
If it's not passed this session, lawmakers say it will be a top priority in 2026.
7:45 right now on WCNC Plus, and 10 million people are under severe weather alerts this morning because of a deadly storm system now moving east. More than 24 reported tornadoes have left behind damage like you see right here. This is in Texas. You can see houses, businesses like this completely just torn apart. Marissa Pera reports from Oklahoma.
Weather whiplash slamming America's heartland. Funnel clouds spotted in Missouri amid an Easter weekend marked by unrelenting weather.
Oh, look at it. Oh, there we go.
The National Weather Service estimates 16 tornadoes tore through Texas and Oklahoma, bringing severe rains, violent winds, and historic flash flooding.
Serious call going on with multiple drowning victims.
In Moore, Oklahoma, this video showing a car caught in rushing floodwaters. Authorities there say a woman and a 12-year-old child were killed after their vehicle was swept away. Further east, homes and businesses ripped apart by an EF1 tornado.
Here in Ada, Oklahoma, we have city officials condemning buildings like this one behind me as we speak.
Christopher Rogers was in this hotel room at the Quality Inn when he first heard the sirens and ran for cover.
Where were you?
I was in the tub.
The mattress, a sign of his desperation to shield himself.
You're either thinking about life or you're thinking about death, whichever one's going to come first, you know.
Residents desperate for relief after an already record-breaking storm season.
It's devastating.
Karen Ames has worked as a housekeeper here since 1983. It was her first job. Now she and all her coworkers will need to find a new one.
I'm sure you were not planning on spending your Easter Sunday with us.
No. Sure wasn't.
The storm tonight now setting its sights east and putting 10 million people in the impact zone. But survivors who have weathered the storms already, balancing heartbreak with gratitude.
It's kind of one of those things that I'm grateful that everybody is still alive.
And I don't want to over-dramatize this, but it's our turn next, that eventually we're going to see this system roll into the Charlotte area. However, the tornado potential does not look to be there. It just really looks to be scattered showers and storms, but it could be days of rain. So we're really going to see what happens over the next couple of days to see how the table is set for a flooding setup or not, because honestly, some areas could get a bunch of rain. The next day, it kind of shifts to the south, then it moves to South Carolina, then another system moves back. So we'll see what happens. This one was one shower after another, with on top of that hail and tornadoes that were embedded within this. Our severe risk, not today. Today is dry. We have nothing to worry about as far as rain is concerned today. We are looking at an isolated large hailstone or two, or really I'm talking about storms. That's going to be about the middle part of the afternoon. Right now I have a window of opportunity about 3 to 8 tomorrow, and then also some gusty winds are always going to be a possibility as well. Current temperatures right now, 63 degrees. That's our low for the morning around Charlotte. Oh, look at you, Lincolnton, overachieving, dropped down to 58 degrees, 57 in Morganton. Then same temperature in Chirac. Chirac, at one point you were colder than Boone. 84 degrees is going to be our high today. That was our high yesterday, so pretty much on par to what we had earlier this weekend. And check off on the distance a lot of those upper level clouds. At times you'll have more blue sky, at times you'll have more cloud cover. That's why I get by with always saying a mix of cloud and sunshine, but truly it means partly cloudy, partly sunny, mostly cloudy on and off throughout the day. Now, over the next 36 hours, what happens is that front that we're talking about, now the worst of the instability is down to the south and west, it kind of goes a little bit more horizontal across the United States. So it's this slight little incline and pushing into the North Carolina mountains. So that's going to allow for some showers and storms just below it. We don't have anything that's really widespread like a line like what we were seeing off towards the west, but we will see those futurecast rain totals start to grow. Now, over the next 120 hours, 5 days, that's what this is pointing to, it only has a general range of about 1 to 2 inches of rain. I think that that is a safe bet. But if we have any storm that is one area after another, some areas could have several storms, their totals will likely be double of this, close to 4 inches plus, and then that's where we're talking about a flood potential. So each day that we have the rain, since we really haven't had a lot, we're going to have that as a possibility. So this, another model showing a really lower end. The way things have been going for the back end of the forecast, we really haven't seen a lot. So something that we'll be watching closely. Again, 3 to 8 tomorrow, and then on and off throughout your Wednesday afternoon and your Thursday afternoon. Thursday looks to be the cloudiest. That's why temperatures are down into the lower 70s. We're back to about 80 degrees on Saturday. Friday and Saturday look to be setups that it's like, hey, dry in the morning, then a line of thunderstorms roll through. Same thing on Saturday. Once that final cold front clears, we're back down and seeing a nice batch of sunshine on Sunday, highs in the mid to the upper 70s, and then we have a break from the rain for a couple of days. Hopefully we have a break from any pains in the traffic department, but I'm going to check with Becca just in case.
No major slowdowns out there, so that's an early Monday morning treat as we take a live look outside from southern Mecklenburg County. I-77 at Westinghouse Boulevard. Cam has frozen, but you can see it is still a little bit busy on those northbound lanes. Nothing too out of control, though. Still a little bit slow. 85 northbound on Gastonia, as well as 77 northbound as you make your way from York inbound into Mecklenburg County. Looking at a couple of new crashes out there, including this one. East Charlotte really seems to be the problem spot this morning. This is Briar Creek now at Commonwealth Avenue. You can see the yellows there indicating some slowdowns, as well as still this active crash inbound Independence Boulevard. This is over towards the Eastway ramp. Delays continue to stretch over a mile. Definitely want to take Central Avenue or Monroe Road to get around this.
All right, Becca, thanks. North Carolina's Pisgah National Forest, over 500,000 acres. It's huge. It's also one of the most visited national forests in the country.
But there are some unwanted visitors there, and really a lot of people are doing their part to get rid of them. Carol Goldsmith reports.
Sam Byers and Will Coffey are gearing up to fight a stubborn enemy. Plants like multiflora rose and autumn olive. Pretty names, but nasty neighbors.
Create an impenetrable thicket that doesn't allow any native plants to really flourish underneath them. Humans can't go through there. It's not good for wildlife. It's very hard to control at this age.
Both Sam and Will lead an invasive plant management crew. They hunt down and wipe out what doesn't belong in the park.
This is a good example of what bittersweet an invasive vine does to a tree. So you have a native tree, you get this girdling, and it basically cuts off nutrient and water flow. To have a healthy tree, eventually this tree will die.
Invasive plants eventually crowd out the taller trees, and those trees provide shade for the river. Without that shade, the water heats up, and that affects everything that lives in the river, including trout.
Trout don't do well in warmer water, and without them, the state loses an estimated $1.5 billion a year in revenue. The crew just celebrated a year of plant fighting. Will and Sam treated more than 120 acres and surveyed an additional 330 acres in the park.
Here, let's get this one over here.
A simple lopping tool and a dabber with safe herbicide. The sprayer also contains FDA-approved herbicide that can be precisely applied.
It opens up the area for your yellow root and your other native species that want to move in. Some of your ferns that are trying to come through right here.
The crew coming through to help native plants flourish.
But the problem is like what we're doing with like.
As we mentioned earlier this month, Larry Sprinkle is doing some exciting things. He's taking on a new role right here at WCNC Charlotte with some really fun assignments.
And today he's kicking off a little something new with a little Monday trivia. Take a look.
It's trivia time, all based on this guy right here. He's from England, by the way. His name is the Earl of, or was the Earl of, well, there's North Carolina and South Carolina, same spelling, but different pronunciations based on the state. In the state of North Carolina, it's called Beaufort. And even some of the people down there say Beaufort, but it's Beau. And in South Carolina, the folks down there say Beaufort. Two towns with the same spelling, but certainly different pronunciations. Think of it this way. O comes before U, N before S. It's an easy way to remember it. Once again, based on this guy right here, the Earl of, well, you pronounce it the way you want to, depending upon where you're from. That's trivia time. I'm Larry Sprinkle.
I like
really,
Beau.
it's really,
You like Beau?
really the Earl of WCNC, Larry.
He is the
so
Earl.
true.
I mean, basically.
I love a good Earl. The Earl of Sandwich.
Right.
Earl of Beau Beaufort, whatever you want to go with.
Beau, Beau,
Beau Beau.
potato, potato.
I wonder what the Earl himself said.
Yeah, we don't know.
The world may never know.
That's right. That's right.
But Larry probably knows. Which, by the way, quick shout out to Larry. Of all the years I did traffic, the amount of times I was like, "Hey, Larry, how do you pronounce this?"
Oh,
He knows
yeah.
everything.
He knows everything, yeah.
And he would even oftentimes have a story about it. It's like, "Whoa, that's actually the Brookshire family, but now we say Brookshire." And I was like, "Wow, that's very interesting."
Yeah, very, very.
So get ready for more Larryisms to come. Looking forward to it.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Let's take a live look right now over Uptown. Chris standing by. He's running over to the Weather Center.
There he goes.
There you go. Putting the finishing touches on the forecast. He's going to have more on that coming up in just a couple minutes. Becca's going to have checked on your Monday morning commute. And we're back with the headlines, including the breaking news of the morning. Pope Francis dead at the age of 88, just a day after Easter services. That's all coming your way at the top of the hour, right here on WCNC Plus.
Well, good morning, my friends. What a delightful start to the day. Look at that. Some upper level clouds dancing about, some nice areas of blue sky. Today we have a high temperature of 84 degrees, dry, no rainfall chances. But things change by tomorrow. Tomorrow we have an isolated scattered chance for rain. Likely rain on Wednesday, widespread rain on Thursday. Get ready for a wet pattern going forward. Our Guy Roofing 7-day forecast shows temperatures dropping down in the lower 70s. So our coolest high looks to be Thursday because of the vast amount of clouds that will be associated with it. And then on Friday, I think you're going to have one storm system that rolls through. We take a break, and then another storm system possible on Saturday. So we're not looking at all-day washouts, but most afternoons have a rain chance going forward. The only days that are dry, the bookends, Monday and the end of the weekend on Sunday. So enjoy the dry days while we have it, but at least we're getting some much-needed rain. Becca, traffic-wise, how's it looking this morning?
Looking pretty good, and we'll enjoy a dry commute off to work and to school as we take a live look outside I-77 at Atondo Avenue. Looking good in both those north and southbound lanes. Opposite effect over towards South Charlotte, 77 northbound, still one of the slow spots, as well as I-85 northbound. Got a couple of crashes in East Charlotte, including this one, Briar Creek Road at Commonwealth Avenue, and still dealing with this accident inbound Independence Boulevard, and that is close to the Eastway ramp, causing a stretch of delays about 1 mile.
following breaking news right now here on WCNC Plus, 8 a.m., 2 p.m. in Rome. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Megan Bragg in for Lisa. We return now to that breaking news that we've been following all morning. Just before coming on air at 4:30 this morning, the Vatican announced the death of Pope Francis.
Live pictures right now from the Vatican, St. Peter's Square, where you can see the work now being done to take apart the stage that was set up yesterday for Easter services. Now it's where crowds are starting to gather to honor the head of the Catholic Church. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane now live in South, and he's outside the Charlotte Diocese there. Richard, even though we knew the Pope had been sick, it's still a surprise to a lot of folks.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Ben. Good morning to you. Good morning, Megan. Good Monday morning, all. It's coming as a surprise. But here at the Catholic Diocese, they're making a statement just released to our newsroom. I want to give you a little bit of it. If you take a look at your screen, this is what the diocese said just a short while ago. I am deeply saddened by the death of Pope Francis and joined with Catholics of the Diocese of Charlotte and around the world in mourning the loss of our shepherd. And I am certain that all people of goodwill rejoice with us that this man of faith has finished the race, and we pray that he will receive the reward which we have all been promised by our merciful God, who has saved us from the family of death. That's by Bishop Michael Martin, just made a short time ago. All that on the Pope on the Pope Francis made just a short while ago. This morning, the world coming together to mourn the passing of Pope Francis, made about 7 o'clock Vatican time this morning, as you're looking at video when they were actually making that announcement about the Pope, known as a gentle voice, a person who called for compassion, coming into the Vatican to change a lot of the old way that things were done. Pope Francis, a spiritual leader, over a billion Catholics, and a global symbol of humanity and hope, passing at the age of 88. The Vatican confirming his passing, as I said earlier today. He was born in Argentina, becoming the first Pope from the Americas back in 2013. He was a leader who brought the church closer to the people, especially the forgotten and the poor. He touched lives far beyond those folks who were the downtrodden. He also touched the people of the poor, both those people who were those members of the poor, but just folks here in Charlotte. We spoke to some folks as we come back here live who say that he personally meant something to them. People who, one person we spoke to says he reminded them of what it was like. This was a person who was from the Americas who said that he was one of him, someone who shared his faith, but also shared his homeland. Of course, in just a little bit, we'll be inside listening to a statement by Bishop Martin on the reach of this Pope and what he meant to this area, the Charlotte region, and this area in general. But of course, his reach is around the world. We'll hear more on that, of course, throughout the day and for the next several weeks, and his legacy will live on forever, if you will. We're right here in the South End. This is Richard Devane. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Richard, thank you.
Well, Pope Francis was one of the most visible men in the world. His worship services and public events followed by tens of millions of people every day.
But what was it like to actually see the Pope behind the scenes, working, traveling, even sharing a joke? NBC News' Jay Gray with more on the personal side of the Pope.
He led more than 1 billion Catholics around the world, but only a select group of journalists had a 30,000-foot view of Pope Francis's journey. NBC News correspondent Claudio Lavagna is part of the Vatican Accredited Media Personnel, or VAMP. It's made up of about 70 members of the press who travel with the Pope on board Shepherd 1. Over the past 20 years, Lavagna's covered Popes John Paul II, Benedict, and Francis.
It's like following a rock star around the world.
His papal name, Francis, was chosen to honor the saint of the poor, the people Lavagna says the late Pope seemed happiest to be around.
He wanted the poor church. He wanted to reach out to the last of the last. Not politicians, not leaders, just the people, especially the people who had nothing, and perhaps the most important that they had was faith.
Lavagna says the spiritual leader had quite the sense of humor, and he recalls pulling a prank on the Pope during a flight to Morocco.
when he extended his hand, I just pulled it away, and he was shocked.
The joke, a play on this viral video showing the Pope refusing to let well-wishers kiss his ring.
You know, a lot of people are asking themselves, why didn't you allow this faithful to shake your hand or kiss your hand? And he laughed, and he took my hand, and he slowly explained that he did it for hygienic reasons.
As loved as Francis was, he did have his critics.
There were a lot of unfulfilled promise to this pontificate.
One of his most iconic and historic moments came when the world shut down due to COVID. Pope Francis standing in an empty St. Peter's Square, praying for the pandemic to end.
The Pope is the shepherd of the world, and I think that image will last a very long time.
Weigel contends the next Pope will have a different vision for the Church.
I think we are going to see a conclave focused on a return to a more orderly process of decision-making in Rome.
While in many ways Pope Francis changed the papacy, some say it never changed him.
He really always was Jorge Bergoglio, which was his real name, and he never lost that for one day.
Jay Gray, NBC News.
Once again, we are taking a live look this morning at the Vatican City in Rome, where there are so many people there that are starting to gather to recognize him. And just yesterday, the Pope was seen riding the Pope-mobile for Easter services. Francis was known as a reformer who rattled the Catholic churches, traditionalists, and inspired progressives by reaching out to gay people and championing the rights of immigrants and the poor. Here's what some of those mourners had to say just after the news broke.
I don't live in Rome. I live in Milan, and I'm here for Easter. And I find it very significant that the Pope has died during Easter or the Easter weekend. I'm from Argentina. The Pope is Argentinian, so it has quite a bit of significance for us.
How you feel?
It's a moment of a bit of sadness and at the same time thankfulness and celebration of life.
And just earlier this morning, this is a look at Vatican officials announcing the death of Pope Francis. The whole announcement is in Italian. In 2 weeks, his successor will be chosen during a secret meeting called Conclave, which can take days to complete. We'll have much more on the passing and his legacy he leaves behind throughout the day, right here on WCNC Plus and during our live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
You'll see a public outpouring of support and condolences for the Pope over the next week or two before the conclave, as I mentioned. All this prescribed by Catholic canon over the last 2,000 years, 250 popes. It's the way it's done. Yep. That's the way it's always been done. And you'll see that as well. Evidently, though, choosing to be laid to rest outside the Vatican. Some are there at St. Peter's Basilica. He evidently chooses to be outside the Vatican there nearby in Rome. But we'll keep you posted throughout the day right here on WCNC Plus. In the meantime, let's switch gears and get a check of your forecast with Chris Mulcahy.
Let's do it. Today is a brilliant day. Here, I'll prove it to you. I'm just really pumped that the Hollisville camera's back. Don't know where that is. It's over in Anson County. If you don't know where that is, well, I'll show you on the map once I get one up. So this is Anson County. If you heard of Wadesboro, that's where it is. So Hollisville isn't too far away from Wadesboro. Rockingham at 84, 85 in Chirac, and then the 84 is a magical number because that was our high temperature yesterday. We were 85 the day before that. So pretty much just continuing the weekend trend. If you like those days, you're going to love today. A little bit of stickiness in the air, but it's really not too bad, not too noticeable. Notice our highs where they're going. We will challenge 80 degrees again, pretty much those upper 70s. Some areas could hit the lower 70s depending on how much sunshine you get. Looks like your Thursday and next Monday will be the coolest, but right back to the mid 80s again, the middle of next week. As far as our lows are concerned, there's the bottom 56, not seeing any 40s or 30s, so it looks like we're almost closing the book there. But check out our Doppler radar. This is a line of showers and storms. This will be our next line of severe storms. Already had a history of some epic wind damage over in Missouri, Oklahoma, multiple tornadoes from that as well. And Becca and I will talk more about that and show you some video here shortly. But our rainfall chances dry today. Isolated to scattered tomorrow, then likely, widespread, likely, and dry again on Sunday. So the bookends dry, everything in between there. We're going to have a chance for showers and thunderstorms, including tomorrow. Tomorrow, we have a large hail threat and also some damaging winds are going to be a possibility. Just because we don't have a storm threat for Wednesday doesn't mean we're not going to have one. It looks like the Storm Prediction Center, because so much is going on, is really only issuing these 2 days out instead of 3 days out because nothing is really clear in that subject. Our futurecast showing that tomorrow we actually see signs of rain and storms either side of I-85 and I-40 tomorrow morning, but then I think we take a break. I think this severe weather window opens up after 3, where some of these individual cells, notice how these ones form around Rock Hill, Monroe. Chance for some larger hail. It's the right environment. Sometimes it's a little bit cooler. That actually lowers the freezing level. That allows for these hail makers. And then you also have some clusters of storms that bring some damaging winds that could be a quick downburst, microburst that comes along with these. And then once you get to about 8 to 9 o'clock, I think their severe window is shutting. And then some areas seeing up to about an inch when all is said and done. But that was just round 1. We have multiple rounds of rain. I'll try to get through as many as I can coming up. But first, we have to check your morning commute with Becca Birdsall. Becca, how are you doing this morning?
Doing good, Chris, and so is traffic, especially over in the Huntersville area. This is a live look outside from I-77 at Samford Road. A gorgeous view there, and look, traffic moving along smoothly as it should be in both directions. Right now, drive times from Matthews to Charlotte, an easy 22 minutes. Salisbury up to 46, Waxhaw 39, and Belmont about 24. Here's big picture. Lots of green on the map. In fact, more green than red. So again, that's what we've got going for us on this Monday morning with a couple of new accidents out there, including this one. And this is over towards South Charlotte, West Tyvola Road, impacting Renaissance Park on those westbound lanes. And then still have that active crash in East Charlotte. That is Briar Creek Road in the Plaza Midwood area at Commonwealth Avenue. Want to let you know of an Uptown Cycle Link project. This is going to close eastbound MLK Boulevard from College Street and North Davidson Street. It's going to close 9 a.m. this morning and will close all the way through about May 16th. Also impacting South College Street from Good Samaritan Way to East MLK.
8:12 right now on WCNC Plus. And this morning we're learning all the students injured in last week's Chester County bus crash are now home. The crash happened Thursday when a tire blew out on a bus carrying 35 middle school students, making it overturn on Interstate 77. From our drone shot, you can see just how bad that accident was. They were returning home from a field trip in here in Charlotte. Tragically, one 8th grader was killed. School leaders say their focus now is helping students, families, and staff heal after that tragedy.
Now to Washington, where the Trump administration's showdown continues against the courts over deportation. It all comes amid new controversy involving Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and a second Signal group chat. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Things, and we're getting them out.
President Trump's immigration policy again colliding with the courts after the Supreme Court paused the deportations of another group of Venezuelan migrants and alleged gang members. Lawyers representing the men say they're being denied hearings to argue their case, something the High Court previously ruled was required to deport under the Wartime Alien Enemies Act, which the administration wants to resume using, asking the justices to lift their hold.
I'm not arguing right here that nobody should get due process. I'm just saying there's a different process under the Alien Enemies Act.
2 conservative justices dissented with the court's pause, calling it unprecedented and legally questionable. President Trump again slamming the federal courts for derailing his immigration actions to stop what he called a sinister attack on our nation. Critics like Senator Chris Van Hollen, who visited, mistakenly deported Kilmar Abrego Garcia in El Salvador, whose release the Supreme Court ordered the Trump administration to facilitate, accusing the president of focusing on gang allegations over due process.
If you deny the constitutional rights of one man, you threaten the constitutional rights for everybody.
Meanwhile, the administration facing new controversy over Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth sharing sensitive information ahead of U.S. military operations in Yemen last month in another Signal group chat, including his wife, his brother, and personal lawyer. They both hold Pentagon jobs. That's all according to 2 sources with knowledge of the matter. It was first reported by the New York Times. The White House saying there was no wrongdoing and no classified classified information shared. The Defense Department's acting inspector general is looking into the first signal chat when a journalist was accidentally added to high-ranking Trump officials' sensitive military discussions on Yemen. The ranking Democrat on the Armed Services Committee is asking that this new reporting be added to the investigation. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
8:15 right now on WCNC Plus. Millions across the Midwest and South waking up and recovering after another weekend of deadly storms. 9 tornadoes tore through North Texas Saturday. This is video of just one of the many damaged homes and downed trees. Thankfully, no reports of any injuries, but take a listen to what people caught in the middle of the storm, what they had to say.
We just heard this horrific, I don't even know how to explain it, just a horrific wind blowing, nasty sound, and I looked out and the RV port was gone, and this was laying on its side. And I screamed because I knew my son was in there. And I was really afraid that he might be seriously injured. He crawled out with a flashlight and stood on top, said, "Mom, I'm okay, I'm okay." That was really a God thing. Anyway, we're just very thankful that none of the neighbors seem to have been hurt, and we're okay too.
That same storm system is believed to have produced a total of 16 tornadoes in Texas and Oklahoma combined. Chris and Becca join us right here with our weather impact team to fill us in more on these. I mean, 16 tornadoes, goodness.
So you grew up a good portion of your life in Texas, so this is kind of that classic Texas severe weather setup. Kind of take a deep dive exactly what happened here meteorologically.
Yeah, the stalled front really provided relentless rains and severe weather all across Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas on what was supposed to be a very busy Easter weekend. And of course, with these holiday weekends, a lot of people tend to be caught off guard. Now, these storms produced rounds and rounds of rain, and the rainfall totals, Chris, were very impressive from this system.
So impressive. So look at this in general. So you can see the tornado icons that are popping up just southeast of Wichita Falls. So you had that, and then you had flooding rains on flooding rains that came on top of this, because some of those rain rates are at least a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch per hour, some of them over an inch per hour. So yeah, that's substantial. And if you clear all this out, these rain totals were measuring up to here. Let's just kind of manually clip close to 10 inches, 8 inches, just a staggering amount of rain. And that's in Texas, Oklahoma, heading up to Missouri. And Becca, we're actually going to look at some storm damage right now. We're going to start in Oklahoma. There it is, classic right there. That's at least looks like EF2 damage right there for the way the buildings were moved.
That's right. And unfortunately in Oklahoma, we did learn that 3 people did die from this weekend due to the severe weather. And I also remember reading about several high water rescues in and around these areas as well. Now, what is going to come this week is another round of severe weather on Tuesday, and with how saturated the soils are going to be, there's going to be a concern for downed trees and, of course, power outages and across the areas that are still recovering.
All right, now we're over to Missouri, seeing a little bit more just downed trees through this stretch. I was seeing more wind damage reports than actually tornado warnings, but hey, wind is wind. Look at the size of that tree. And Becca, that's the biggest thing with these wind events. The trees are the biggest killers, the biggest hazards. Just look at the size of that thing.
For sure. And you know what? This is all headed our way, and Tuesday brings a round of potentially some isolated severe storms for us.
And Becca, you brought up a really good point. So I was saying, man, I'm really surprised that there isn't some sort of storm prediction for Wednesday. You were saying yesterday there wasn't one for tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that clearly shows that they're working a day behind because there's so much going on. So let's get to your futurecast, the way round 1 of rain is going to look in the near term. So here it is. I think our first rounds of showers really arrive on and off around the I-40 corridor to as far south as I-85 by the late morning. But I think most of the activity as far as any storm potential goes is going to be between 3 and 8 o'clock. That's the window I have right now. But then beyond that, here's Wednesday morning. You can have some spotty rain showers, but as we have a more unstable environment, we hit our high temperature for the day. That's where we see a lot more numerous showers and storms. This time, you can see that things are trending a little bit further south. So I think it's a little more populated around the Charlotte area. Some of these are showing that they're really slow movers. This is also showing a potential for a stationary front or a stalled out front. This is where I think we start to raise our flood concerns. So you can go by the models each and every day, but just as a meteorologist, I think that we are starting to get to the territory that we will likely see some higher values. Some areas could see a couple of inches just within a 1 to 2 day period, the way that things are shaping up. And then the same trend goes. Our data ends here for your Thursday morning, but then I think Thursday afternoon, as long as that stationary front is going to be draped across the area, you're going to have a chance for rain. So this is actually Wednesday evening heading into Thursday. At that point, everything just completely stalls out. As long as you have a stall front with moisture being pumped into it, you're going to have that potential for on and off rain for days, and that's exactly what we'll see. Now, luckily, that one starts to move on Thursday before we have another couple of systems arrive on Friday and Saturday. Today, the only day this work week that is going to come without rain. So going forward, you need to have the umbrella. So here's what it looks like on our Guy Roofing 7-day forecast. Through the weekend, we had high temperatures in the mid-80s. We're going to have that once again. For your Tuesday, I think that we have on and off showers and storms. Not everyone will see them. Wednesday, close to the Charlotte area, better chance for storms. Right now, Thursday looks to be the most numerous. So that just means the most rain and storms on the map. So this is our highest potential that everyone watching right now could potentially see this, at least in the WCNC viewing area. Of course, here on WCNC Plus, anyone across the country and the world could watch. And then Thursday is also the coolest because I think we see the most cloud cover as that front is draped directly over us. We'll see a little more sunshine on Friday, on and off thunderstorms during the afternoon. And then finally, the final passage on Saturday. Right now, I say that kind of with a little emphasis. Right now, Sunday looks to be the driest, but if any of these start to slow down on Saturday, that could change. So it looks like Monday and Sunday look to be the driest. Anything goes Tuesday through Saturday afternoon. Now, Becca's up next to see how traffic is looking.
Chris, this is the best the traffic map has looked for a weekday morning rush hour commute. Way more green than reds and oranges out there, so we'll certainly take it. Just a little bit slow as you head from Gastonia inbound into Mecklenburg County on 85 northbound. May add a few extra minutes to that morning commute. Even 77 northbound over to South Charlotte is also looking good. Outside right now, taking you to that Mecklenburg-Iredell County line. This is I-77 at Griffith Street, and both lanes of traffic in both directions are looking good. Drive times right now from Matthews to Charlotte, 22 minutes, Salisbury 46, Waxhaw 39, and Belmont an easy 24 minutes. Really only active crashes causing some problems is going to be this one, West Tyvola Road near Renaissance Park, impacting the westbound lanes, and then Briar Creek Road at Commonwealth Avenue. There is still an active incident in and around the area.
All right, thank you, Becca. A special weekend for Charlotte's first responders. The 17th annual Salute to Heroes hockey game took over the Bojangles Coliseum. The game honors fallen heroes and raises funds for their families. WCNC Charlotte's Anna King explains why this year's game was extra special.
Saturday, Charlotte first responders were excited to take to the ice in front of packed stands in the annual Salute to Heroes hockey game.
They helped me out, and now I'm kind of here giving back and doing the same thing.
The matchup was more than just friendly competition. It was a tribute to those who made the ultimate sacrifice.
There's more to healing than just the physical aspect.
Mike Giglio was one of the officers caught in the crossfire in the tragic ambush nearly 1 year ago. And he says every pass and every goal couldn't compare to the support and cheers they got from the crowd.
So having the community come out and spend their time and buy the tickets just to be here, knowing that they're supporting first responders. It's a great feeling for me, and I'm sure for many other first responders in the area.
With moments of remembrance and honorary tributes, organizers say the goal Saturday was to take time to give back.
We talk about our first responders, and that 911 call goes out and they respond, no questions asked to that emergency, whatever it is. So we as an organization, our motto is to respond for those first responders when they're in need. No questions asked.
And to let the families of those we've lost know they're not alone.
Their loved one will never be forgotten. Their sacrifice what they did for this community will not be forgotten.
Amanda King, WCNC Charlotte.
And you know, we're reminded almost on a daily basis on this newscast and others of the sacrifices they make for our community.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break. Let's go to live pictures right now over uptown. We're going to have a check of your forecast coming up in just a minute as you head out the door. Also a check of the morning commute as well. Then back with the headlines at 8:30 right here on WCNC Plus.
Good morning, y'all. Well, today, 84 degrees, same high as yesterday, similar days. At times, you're going to see a little more sunshine. At times, you're going to see more cloud cover. Yesterday was on the sunnier side, so I guess a little bit close to what we had on Saturday. And then those temperatures zoom in up to lower to the mid 80s throughout the afternoon. Not much of a heat index today and really no wind chill, so good news there. There's a chance for an isolated scattered shower or thunderstorm tomorrow, likely to widespread rain after that, Wednesday through Saturday. So a lot going on in the weather department. Get ready for a wet pattern. First signs of rain arrive between I-85 and I-40 tomorrow morning. But I think most of the activity for any thunderstorm potential, and we do have a low risk for a severe storm, is between about 3 and 8 o'clock. At this point, we could have a couple of individual cells providing gusty winds, some larger hail up to about an inch in diameter, so keep that in mind. Our Guy Roofing 7-day forecast keeping rain chances around Tuesday through Saturday. That's likely going to keep us in the 70s, around 80 degrees on Saturday. However, as of right now, Sunday is trending to be dry. Becca, how's the morning commute so far?
It has been an easy-going Monday morning commute so far, all things likely due to that day off for CMS students. And outside right now is the live look outside from I-77 in Northwest Charlotte. Looking good there, and also looking good across the Charlotte area. But I am tracking a couple of problem spots out there, including this one over in South Charlotte. This is West Tyvola Road near Renaissance Park. And in East Charlotte, still have that active crash impacting Briar Creek Road at Commonwealth Avenue. Drive safe.
Streaming live at 8:30 right here on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Megan Bragg in for Lisa this morning. This morning, millions around the world are mourning and in shock over the death of Pope Francis. The news of his death was announced just after 4 this morning. NBC's Mark Barger has a look at the Pope's historic tenure.
Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio was elected Pope when Pope Benedict abruptly resigned in 2013. Bergoglio chose the name Francis after St. Francis of Assisi, known for his poverty and humility. Francis was the first pope to come from Latin America and the first to take the name Francis. In his opening appearance as pope, he asked that people pray for him. Francis became the leader of an estimated 1.2 billion Roman Catholics at a time of a number of conflicts for the church: a sex abuse scandal, a financial scandal in the Vatican Bank, and conflicts over the issues of abortion, homosexuality, and the role of women in the church. Within days of beginning his papacy, Francis made choices that revealed he would be a different kind of pope. He shunned the regal garments and trappings of previous popes, he paid his own hotel bill in person, and he chose to live in a modest apartment instead of the lavish papal residence. It was clear from the start that Francis loved interacting. He kissed children, wore hats from the crowd, and posed for pictures.
Don't get tired of bringing the mercy of the Father to the poor, the sick, the abandoned.
Within the first year of his papacy, he apologized to victims of sexual abuse by priests and set up a committee that included lay people to investigate sex crimes by priests. The wave of sexual abuse scandals within the church proved to be the greatest crisis of Francis' tenure. In 2015, he was criticized for supporting a Chilean bishop who was accused of covering up sex crimes against minors. Francis later admitted mishandling the situation and asked for forgiveness. Another abuse bombshell rocked the Catholic Church in 2018. A scathing grand jury report detailed decades of sexual abuses by priests in Pennsylvania.
Holy Father knows this is very serious. Holy Father knows this can shake the faith of the people in the pews.
The Vatican condemned the abuse as criminally and morally reprehensible and said Pope Francis was on the side of the victims. Through it all, Francis maintained his reputation as a reformer. He set up a hand-picked committee of 8 cardinals to discuss reforming the Vatican bureaucracy. He made headlines for his apparent acceptance of homosexuality and for warning about the dangers of climate change. Pope Francis also played a key role in the talks to restore full diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Cuba in 2014. He also spoke frequently about the importance of women in the Catholic Church and changed the Church's stance on the death penalty, declaring it unacceptable in all cases. Having had part of one lung removed as a young man, Francis had long battled health problems, especially bouts of acute bronchitis in winter. In recent years, he had been using a wheelchair, walker, or cane when moving around his apartment. Mark Barger, NBC News.
Now let's go back out to live pictures of the Vatican, St. Peter Basilica. You see there, time there is 2:33 in the afternoon. There have been crowds we've watched gather there in the square over the course of the last few hours as news started to leak of the Pope's passing. It's just 24 hours after he greeted followers there in that same exact place for Easter services. He is going to be honored, we know, with a 9-day mourning period, which is standard. At that time, his body will be displayed there at the Vatican inside St. Peter's. Then in 2 weeks, a new pope will be chosen during a highly secretive election called a conclave. You perhaps remember this when it happened 12 years ago and about 20 years ago before that. And we're also getting reaction from around the world, including this post from the King Charles. Our heavy hearts have been somewhat eased to know that His Holiness was able to share an Easter greeting with the church and the world he served with such devotion. The White House also posting rest in peace, Pope Francis. And the Vice President, J.D. Vance, posted that he was happy to see him yesterday in an odd twist. He was probably one of the last few people to actually see the Pope. I think that was one of the last public pictures of the Pope, was a meeting with J.D. Vance yesterday. Already seen people talk about who might be the next Pope. Yep. Usually comes from the College of Cardinals. And it will be fascinating to know whether or not they choose to continue the path of a more progressive pope, which Pope Francis has been, or if they choose to pick somebody who goes back more towards traditional Catholicism. It'll be interesting to see over the next a few weeks. Let's go ahead and pause for a second and get a check of your forecast. Chris standing by with your skeeter meter.
What is this doing here? Come on. Well, first off, let's learn a little bit of skeeter meteorology. These guys love it when it's warmer, and they also love it when it's super humid. So we're not near that yuck status, but I have us barely in the high today just because we have enough moisture in the air, and you probably noticed that those critters are coming back. But I'm also proving a point that as that rain starts to come in, we don't really have the right environment, so it's back down to a medium to a low. So this is the first time I've really almost had a high level. We had it over the weekend as well, but still we're not totally there yet. As far as our pollen goes, rain is good for this, but even on a rainless day, it's only the lower 10s. So we're not seeing that extreme level. So tree pollen is on the way down. So pine, oak, and mulberry is still the top ones that I'm seeing here a little bit closer to home. But as long as these remain high, your pollen level is going to remain low because you have several opportunities per afternoon to wash that pollen away. So if you already sprayed off some of the yellow stuff, well, Mother Nature is going to try to aid that for you and not going to really see a lot of the yellow stuff starting to come back out since we're already past the peak of pine pollen, which is what you physically see. Our current temperatures right now, 65 degrees in Charlotte, 63 in Hickory, 57 degrees in Boone. At times it'll be cloudy, at times it'll be sunny. That's why I always, on a day like today, say a mix of clouds and sunshine. We've already seen it so far this morning. 84 degrees is the high. That's exactly where we were yesterday. Want to show you our prolonged pattern. We are going to hit a little W. Check this out. So down to 73, back to 80, back to the mid 70s before you jump back up in the mid 80s. As far as our lows go, mainly in the 60s, down to 56, but I'm mainly showing you we're not seeing any big cool down as of yet. Looking over the next 7 days, though, for our rainfall chances, there it is. Dry Monday, dry Sunday, everything in between. Well, who knows what's going to go. But one thing about tomorrow, it's the one day that we have a severe weather outlook. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to see other ones in the future. I think they mainly turn over to more of a rain event. But for tomorrow and your Wednesday, yeah, I think you will both have a chance for some gusty winds and even some isolated hail, especially tomorrow as far as the hail things go. Here's what it looks like on your futurecast. Seeing rain starting to expand really in between I-85 and I-40 tomorrow morning. And then I think the best window of opportunity for any severe storms to pop, that's between about 3 and 8 o'clock. Very isolated. Not a lot of us are going to be impacted by this. I think most of us will see some sort of passing shower or it looks like it's going to rain, or you can see it off in the distance. Once you get to about 8 to 9 o'clock, we're starting to see those thunderstorms die out up to about a quarter to 3/4 of an inch for the higher rain totals. Other areas just seeing really a big trace. This is only round 1 of 5. I'll go through all the other rainfall chances coming up here shortly. But first, Becca, how are the roads looking so far?
Looking good out there as we check in on South Carolina. This is a live look outside from I-77 across York County, and it is flowing smoothly, both those north and southbound lanes. So no issues if you are headed out there this morning. A little bit slow towards just south of Uptown I-77 over towards the John Belk Freeway. Those northbound lanes, again, just running just a little bit slow as they continue over towards Uptown. Right now, an updated look at those drive times. Matthews to Charlotte, 22 minutes. Salisbury, 47. Waxhaw, 39. And Belmont still at 24 minutes. The green just continues to grow across the area. Really, the only slowdown I'm seeing currently is going to be I-77 northbound, again, as drivers make their way closer to Uptown Charlotte. Still have that crash west Tyvola Road impacting Renaissance Park area and over towards East Charlotte, Briar Creek Road at the intersection of Commonwealth Avenue. Only seeing very minor delays with this crash.
This morning, women across Charlotte are raising safety concerns after several disturbing incidents in South End.
WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards live with the details on the viral TikTok and the effort now to fight back. Destiny, what do we know?
Well, on any given day, South End's rail trail is usually busy with people walking their dogs, running, or meeting up with friends. But one woman's afternoon walk, just a routine afternoon walk on April 7th, took a disturbing turn. It was her friend Nicole Smith who shared the story on TikTok. She said a man in a white pickup truck stopped in a crosswalk near Camden Road and East Park Avenue, exposed himself to her friend, and engaged in lewd behavior. The video, which includes a shot of the truck, quickly went viral, gaining over 55,000 likes and 15,000 shares. Since the video was posted, Smith says other women have come forward with similar stories, including reports of being followed or feeling unsafe while walking in South End. One woman who asked to remain anonymous says the recent incident made her rethink her own habits when it comes to staying alert.
Made me realize I need to be more conscious of my surroundings. A lot of times I'm walking around with noise-canceling headphones in, which I will probably stop doing now because I think it's so important to really be aware of your surroundings.
CMPD didn't provide a comment over the weekend, but we reached out to them again this morning, waiting to hear back. But crime mapping shows recent reports of theft and robbery along the rail trail. So still waiting for reports from CMPD about this particular incident. But Smith, who released that TikTok, she said in the meantime, she's using her own women's group called Inner Circle Charlotte to spread awareness, and she hopes to start a self-defense class soon. She's also urging women to continue staying alert, staying aware, and speaking up if they see something. Live in South End, I'm Destiny Richards, WCNC Charlotte.
And we should say we do approach these stories with a bit of skepticism, as we do everything, just because we want to get the actual stats from CMPD to see sometimes the perceived amount of cases is just that, perceived.
Right.
And we'll want to get more information from CMPD to see if the stats actually back that up. So we're arming you with the best, most accurate information. Switching gears now to the North Carolina State Capitol, where the Senate has passed their $32 billion budget proposal. Right now, it includes $700 million more for Helene relief, $1.1 billion in savings for future natural disasters, and some aggressive tax cuts. It also includes a job cut restructure similar to the Federal Department of Government Efficiency. WCNC Charlotte's Julie Kay breaks down what's at stake and how this differs from the federal government's DOGE program.
Job cuts at the federal level being felt all the way from the top down. Protests erupted across the country, including in Charlotte, over President Donald Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, cutting jobs the administration sees as wasteful.
Staff depletions are already causing problems. We have longer wait times. Nobody can get through on the phone. We have slower claims processing.
But at the North Carolina State Capitol, Senate Republicans passing a budget with a similar model called the DAVE Act, or the Division of Accountability, Value, and Efficiency. It would cut hundreds of vacant positions.
Looks like 785.5, which leaves remaining vacant positions of 22,144.
It also fully abolishes filled positions with agencies, like the Office of Historically Underutilized Businesses, which helps women and minority-owned businesses. It also cuts the Innocence Inquiry Commission, which investigates prison inmates' claims that they were wrongly convicted.
Looking at their efficiency and what they were doing, and looking at other agencies, they could do that at no expense to the state. That's why we chose that cut within that agency.
Going forward, it would create a DOGE-style review process, but there are some key differences. State leaders have said this plan would be more limited. Any future cuts would have to be approved by the state legislature, not just one person, though the state auditor would lead it. However, this budget and its cuts still have to get through the House. Though it's also Republican-led, they've not always seen eye to eye on budgets. And with more federal cuts potentially on the way.
There are a lot of rumors out there that give me great concern with how Congress may change the funding formulas for those type of things, but there is absolutely no proposals on the table in front of Congress.
DOGE at the state level still has a long road ahead. Julie Kay, WCNC Charlotte.
In 2022, South Carolina had the highest rate of DUI deaths per capita in the country. 474 people died that year, but a new bill aimed at preventing more drunk driving deaths isn't expected to pass this year. The bill would add about a dozen changes to the state's DUI laws, including tighter rules on when dash cam video can be used in court, as well as felony charges for causing moderate bodily injury while driving under the influence.
It's not just bad luck that we are the nation's worst for drunk driving. It is because we have an incredibly flawed DUI law.
If it is not passed this session, lawmakers say it will be a top priority in 2026.
8:44 right now here on WCNC Plus. Cleanup you can see here underway this morning after severe storms tore through parts of Texas and Oklahoma this past weekend. For some towns, it's already their second tornado this year. Reporter Brandon Bates has a look at the damage for us this morning.
For the second time this year, the town of Ada was hit by a tornado. I'm 2 News Oklahoma's Braden Bates. I listened to a hotel owner and some of his guests who say their Easter weekend turned out differently than expected.
why it happened. That's what I'm asking, why it happened to us. You know?
JRE dedicated 2 decades to the Quality Inn here in Ada.
We just had to move forward, you know. So, yeah, it's the feeling that I never have in mind before.
Taking pride in the place he owns.
Like this direction, because it took the front tree down.
But now he's left wondering, what's next?
I've seen on a lot of news, and you know, this is my turn, I guess. We're gonna be okay. Hopefully we're gonna be okay.
He tells me what the tornado didn't touch was then met with heavy rainfall, soaking ceiling tiles and dirty water, replacing the spots where Easter breakfast was going to be held. But Ian's grateful all of his guests made it out safely.
And then all of a sudden, boom, out of nowhere, I mean boom, like a bomb went off.
Scott Valentine and Lisa Bray were here visiting their daughter and granddaughters for the holiday.
It was horrifying, it really was. But we're alive, so we're happy.
This was the room they were staying in, and when they walked out in the morning, this was their view.
Looked out our door and we seen like a beam through somebody's window on the upper floor.
While Easter partners faith and fun egg hunts, Bray and Valentine tell me they're leaning on the Lord to guide them forward.
You know what? We got out there with our lives, and our granddaughters did. That's the most important thing to us.
Thank goodness there, and we are expecting a form of this system to move through, but it doesn't really look like it's going to be nearly as severe. It's further off towards the west, but that's also known as Tornado Alley. So they usually have a better environment, strong winds coming from the northwest, feeding in cooler air in the warm Gulf. Now we can have that to a certain point. That's why it's actually the eastern areas closer to I-95 known as Carolina Alley, because they kind of have that effect from the Atlantic, a little bit different from the Appalachians. But it looks like we are going to see at least a chance for some strong storms by tomorrow. Not as much in this line fashion, but the front itself is arriving. All right, let's get to today. Beautiful. Lots of sunshine, but then lots of clouds. So depending where you are, you might see what's the view in Anson County, and then you could have what's over in Dallas, or you could have what's in Monroe, or you can have what's in Concord. These places aren't super far from one another, so that's exactly what today is going to be. Beautiful blue sky to beautiful white clouds. Depends on what you like. 84 degrees was our high temperature yesterday, and 85 on Saturday, so very similar to each day what we just had over the weekend. Feeling the same too, a little stickiness from time to time, but all in all feeling okay. High temperatures today, as I mentioned, right around 84 degrees, 75 for you in Boone, 81 in North Wilkesboro, good morning, and then 86 in Charlotte. What about our lows? 64 degrees overnight around Charlotte, and only down in the mid 50s in Boone, so pretty much exactly what we just went through, and then the lower 60s thereafter. And our forecast for tomorrow, I think we're avoiding the 80s. However, it depends. Looks like we could have a little bit of sunshine down towards the south, more of the upper 70s to 73 around Hickory. So we really have a divided area depending who's going to see the storms or not. I think it's a little bit more north compared to south, and then that's going to switch by your Wednesday. And speaking of, Wednesday and Thursday, much higher chance for rain compared to Tuesday, anywhere from a 60 to 80% chance that put us in that likely possibility. Those days also feeling more humid. The more moisture that's in the air, that's also storm fuel. And that's why we're going to have a better chance for that. So our surface map looking forward, eventually it's going to do this. Whenever it does this, that is going to allow just for constant rain and showers and storms to start to pop up. So let me backtrack for you, exactly showing you what the case and scenario is going to be, and then we'll show you a little bit more detail in our future cast. So this cold front that provided all those tornadoes and flooding right through the central part of the United States will eventually be here in the Carolinas by tomorrow morning. So there will be a chance for rain, I think, in between I-85 and I-40 tomorrow morning, but then it's right in this little warm sector before the front tries to pass. That's where you could have some storms starting to fire up. As of right now, doesn't really look like our tornado threat is going to be there. Mainly isolated hailstorms, then also you could have some gusty winds associated with this. But then watch what happens. It just kind of sits here. It bends around. So that means underneath, still a lot of moisture collides into it. We have a better chance for rain and storms more south. So even though the storm Prediction Center doesn't have us under a specific threat for Wednesday. Wednesday actually looks to have more storms and activity compared to what we have tomorrow. And then that front eventually just bottoms out. It levels out and it becomes a stationary front, meaning it's not really going anywhere. As long as you have a stationary front, we've seen this constantly recently. That's what caused the epic and historic flooding over in Kentucky. Not saying that we're going to see that here, just letting you know it's those type of setups that can drive that type of weather. For our future cast, I want to get to Tuesday. So here's what I'm talking about, seeing some rain right around the I-40 to I-85 corridor by tomorrow morning. That will include Charlotte, so it could be a quick little downpour to start off the day. Then I think we dry out. I think you will see a little bit of sunshine place to place, even though this future cast is keeping it pretty cloudy. Now, we open up our storm window, I think, really after 3. I think you could have a storm before then, but I'm talking about when you have the stronger ones. That's what this is indicating. So I think it's really the late afternoon that you have the chance for hail. So at this point, it would be a pop-up shower or thunderstorm. Those start to grow in the vertical. Those on their own have the best chance for a quick hail core. So I think like what we saw on April 11th, a lot of people had that pea-sized to, I think, dime-sized maximum hail. 1 inch in hail diameter is quarter-size hail, and that is considered a severe one. Once you get to about the latter part of the afternoon and the evening, these storms start to conjoin together, called multi-cluster storms. At that point, I think it's a better chance for wind damage. Window starts to close right around 8 to 9 o'clock, right as the sun is setting. Our severe weather outlook as of right now shows a low chance for large hail and a low chance for damaging winds. This is a very isolated nature. Even though the Storm Prediction Center doesn't have us under a designated low or medium by your Wednesday, I think you still could be under a same jurisdiction. How much rain? Well, this is just over the next couple of days. I think some areas see a trace while others see up close to an inch. It just depends where those thunderstorms are going to set up, which makes this a difficult forecast. Moving on to day 2 of rain, Wednesday. Because that front is going to be nearby, and I think it's going to be soaking up really just south of it, we have a spotty rain shower in the morning. But then once the atmosphere starts to warm up, juice up, that's going to allow for flourishing showers and storms. We often see this during the summertime once the cap breaks. So pretty much once that little compression that's going on that allows it to, doesn't allow everything to free form up into the atmosphere, that's where you're going to have everything break. Because look at this storm coverage. By the late afternoon, heading into the evening, widespread showers. At this point, I think we're opening up our flooding potential, and we could see that on Thursday as well. So the story is really starting to unfold. All you need to know is you need the umbrella each and every afternoon, starting tomorrow through Saturday. Sunday, it's dry again, but also more clouds, more rain, going to bring our temperatures back down close to where they should be, but not the most sunshine in between. It's also, from what I've been hearing from Becca, a really delightful start to your morning commute. Maybe it's because the kids aren't going to school.
That's right. So enjoy it while you can. Outside right now is a live view from I-85 over towards the Brookshire Freeway, and it's looking good. Both those north and southbound lanes moving along smoothly, and that is the trend across the entire Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. Only seeing a few minor slowdowns, especially on 77 northbound just south of Uptown. Got this new crash in Gastonia, and this is impacting South New Hope Road on Armstrong Park Road. Only seeing minor delays associated with that, and then really the only active accident that we have in Charlotte is going to be in South Charlotte. That's West Havola Road near Renaissance Park. Do want to let you know of an Uptown Cycle Link project that begins at 9 a.m. today. This is going to close East MLK Boulevard from College Street and North Davidson Street, but it's also going to close South College Street from Good Samaritan Way to MLK Junior Boulevard as well. And again, this continues to close all the way through about May 16th.
And just in the newsroom, former President Joe Biden reacting to the news of the Pope's passing. We brought you a statement from President Trump just a few minutes ago. Now from Mr. Biden saying in part, quote, "It's with great sadness that Jill and I learned of the passing of His Holiness Pope Francis. He was unlike any who came before him. Pope Francis will be remembered as one of those consequential leaders of our time, and I'm better for having known him." Also hearing from former President Biden, Obama just in the last 5 minutes, who said that he was a rare leader who made us all want to be better people. We're also learning that a cardinal with ties to Texas is expected to take charge of the Vatican just in the interim until that new pope is chosen. Cardinal Kevin Farrell spent a decade as a bishop here in the States, down in Dallas at the diocese there, worked directly with the late pope. He will just be in charge in the interim until the conclave selects a new pope coming up in just a few weeks.
He's actually the first American to hold this position, so very interesting. And we're going to take a break, but keep it right here on WCNC Plus at 8:56. We'll have a quick update on weather and traffic on the broadcast side.
And then Nick Sturvant, you can see him there. He's going to be in our live Impact Stream studio. He's going to have all the breaking events, including the latest on this news of the passing of a pope. Keep it right here on WCNC Plus.
Good morning. Temperatures warming up. Look at us, 68 degrees right now, 65 in Hickory, and then 59 in Boone. We're reaching the mid-80s yet again. Now you're going to see two different scenes, one that's cloudy, one that looks like this over Concord and Charlotte Motor Speedway. So it just depends where you're at. Not much of a heat index today, looking great. So a mix of cloud and sunshine, just on and off clouds throughout the day. Your evening out forecast, same thing goes, a partly cloudy to a mostly cloudy evening. Temperatures still rocking the lower 70s, so don't even need a sweatshirt, say if you're going out to eat. And then our rainfall chances, they zoom. I only have isolated here, but I think it's more scattered for your Tuesday, more widespread and likely Wednesday through Saturday. Becca, what do we need to know about your morning commute?
Chris, we're off to a great start for this work week in terms of traffic as we take a live look outside from that Mecklenburg-Iredell County line. This is I-77 at Griffith Street, a gorgeous shot there of Lake Norman, and we are still seeing lots of green on the traffic map. Want to let you know of one active crash we have in Gastonia, and this is impacting South New Hope Road at the intersection of Armstrong Park Road.